God doesn't leave us, we leave Him. And I turned my back on Him a little bit. There was just something that was going on in my life at that time that caused me to turn. But God never leaves us. He's always with us, no matter what we're doing. And, you know, it's sad sometimes that we have to go through the things that we go through, because without that, we can't have a stronger walk with the Lord. I pray for me and the ladies that have that strong devotion to the Lord that can make it for their whole duration with the Lord. There was just things that sometimes the Lord has us go through a lot. I've learned from the walks with the apostles that Paul and Peter and Silas, and some of them went through some hard times. And sometimes we can look at our lives and we can say, well, they went through it, we can go through it. And there's a lot of people that you speak to that have gone through some hard times in their life, and without having that battle scar, some scars on you that you've walked through, that they look at you and say, well, how can you associate with me when you haven't gone through it? And so I feel that the Lord has brought me through some things that allows me to be able to, now that I'm in the jail ministry, if I walk in there and start ministering to these men behind the bars, they're going to say, where's your battle scars? Well, they're there, and they see it, and it turns their lives around. They see that I've been in some situations that they've been in. I'm not proud of it, but I'm proud that the Lord has brought me through it so that I can associate it with other people to bring them through. I'm here this morning for Brother Travis. He had spoke to me, and the Lord is, last month, about three and a half weeks ago, the Lord had brought a message on my heart that we're living in the last days, the last times, and we are supposed to be able to get ourselves together today. In these last days, if we will bring ourselves together and make it right with the Lord, that He will prosper us and He will bring our families in with us. And one thing that I've learned over my course of time with the Lord is, of course, we give ourselves to Him, and we're to know that if we're married or if we have children or if we have friends, God has got them in His hands, and it's not for us to worry about. There was a time period that I was growing up that God was saying, get yourself and get your family together, because my kingdom is coming. I have seen over the course of time that the Lord is saying in these last days that we should get ourselves ready. Be prepared for you, because if you ask yourself right now, if you was to die, would you go to heaven? You know, it's a personal question that you should ask yourself and look down deep in your heart. Because if you're not ready, and if you feel that there is something in there, you need to turn it over to the Lord. And in the process of saying this, the Lord has also showed me that there was a time when He wanted you to get your family ready to be the head of the household, or be the woman of the household, and be with your man, and be with your husband, and your wives with your husband, and husbands with your wives. Well, we've come into a time of where we are in the last days, and I don't want to keep repeating, but for me it was, how do I do this, Lord? And He said, when you make yourself right with me, and you give me your daughter, you give me your wife, your husband, your grandparents, just know that I have them. I created them. They are mine. You have to stop worrying about your other mate. Know that you're getting yourself right, and know that the promise of God was that if you get yourself right, He automatically will bring the others right, because they will see in you the testimony that you have, and He brings us in close. Where He brought me a couple of weeks ago in a message, and it was pretty strong on my heart, because I said, Lord, well, first of all, He brought me to John 3:18 in a strange way. I mean, I won't go into detail. I just want to make it short today. He showed me John 3:18, and we know what, if we back up to John 3:16, for God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. For he that believeth in Him shall have everlasting life. And He did not send His Son into the world to condemn the world, but that through the world they may be saved and believe in the only begotten Son. And then it goes to say that there is no, that he that believes has no condemnation, but he that doesn't believe has condemnation. And I said, yes, Lord. And he says, today, meaning today until his kingdom comes, until the very last day, he is wanting to say that if we believe this, then why are we walking in condemnation? Why is it that his children are tied up and bound up in condemnation? If he has come into the world to set us free, then we should be free indeed. But he was crying to me and saying, I said, Lord, this is a hard message to get. I said, number one, I don't feel that I'm worthy to be saying this to people. I said, because, and he showed me, he said, just recently, he says, I was living in condemnation and didn't know it. And this is the message. People are living in condemnation and they don't know it. We as Christians should not be exposing people to condemnation. It's how we perceive ourselves to others. If we say something wrong. In other words, I'll give you an example. I have a dear brother. There's 4 of us. And the one that's underneath me, we've always grown up as siblings and we duke it out. But as we grew up, we've come to understand that we have a relationship with each other. And what comes under condemnation is the attitude of another person and how you present yourself to these people. Well, there was a situation between me and him where he was walking with the Lord, but he has turned his back. He has come under, what I'm saying is, and what the Lord is wanting me to show, is that there is walking wounded. God's children are walking wounded. They have been hurt in church in the past. We're having to deal with the elders. There's a lot of men and a lot of women that don't come to church today because there was something that happened to them in church in the past. Something was said. They were put under condemnation for no reason at all. They woke up one morning and had joy in their heart and walked into church. And someone not knowing that the tongue is going to thrash them and scar them and cause them to be wounded some way. So I know a lot of people. I was that's one of the reasons why I turned. God didn't leave me. I turned from God because I was tired of walking into churches and getting thrashed because of the way I looked, the way I worshiped to Him, and so forth and so on. But what God is speaking to me is for us to be careful how we present ourselves to people. Back to my brother. He would come through, and the message is we should not be exposed to condemnation. And we can come into it, across to it in several ways. One, the Lord showed me the day He gave me this message to speak to others about it, is that what happened to me was my brother had turned himself away from God and he was back into drinking. It was in the house. I was exposed to it. We both lived together. I was there just for a short period of time until the Lord moved me on and I could move out. But what I was exposed to was the worldly ways again. And there was a time, and living this way, for God says, if you do not believe in me, you are condemned. Well, condemned and condemnation run hand in hand. I would come home at night, and I would feel this condemnation. And I'd walk through the house, and I fretted because he might get up and he might come out with a gun, thinking I'm someone coming through the house. He told me this. He said, you could be shot. Or I'd be there during the day, and he'd come in, and it's the way he spoke to me. It's the way he was trying to rule the house. And I would feel the only safe place I had was to go in my room. And the only way I could come away from this condemnation was I was laying there knowing that I'm a child of God. And I said, Lord, I don't need to live this way.